Tuesday, they treated Monday's close like a floor. Then they opened through it overnight and never even tagged it. Watch the chart. Every candle of the whole day sits under that line. The high of the day printed 10 minutes after the open, and it is still more than 30 points underneath Monday. They never came back for it. Not once. And the quiet number they printed at the close is covering something louder. If you only read the headline, Tuesday looks like nothing. It was not nothing. The cost of scrolling past is walking into Wednesday with the wrong floor. Stay with this replay. In about 2 minutes, you will see the last try and the last 5 minutes. This is the replay. Before we go anywhere, I owe you a scoreboard. Last episode, I left you 3 numbers: 78, 16, 70, the ceiling; 77, 77, the shelf; 77, 63, 18, Thursday's open and Thursday's low. None of those 3 got a visit on Tuesday, not even close. Friday, they missed the ceiling by 6 points. Monday, they lost the open and low. Tuesday, they were not even in the zip code. Now look at Monday, because Monday is the setup. Monday's opening print was the high of the day. Monday's last 5-minute bar printed the low. They closed 18 cents off that low at 77.45. That close became the floor everyone was watching overnight. Then Tuesday opened 45 points through it. A floor you close on is not a floor if the next open never comes back. That is why the 3 numbers at the end of this video matter more than the headline at the top of it. Now start the clock. 9:30 Tuesday morning. The S&P opens at 7,700. 45 points of open air back up to Monday's close. They have 6.5 hours to go get it. 90 minutes to lunch. The whole afternoon after that. First bar runs up to 77.12. Second bar. Third bar, 9:40 in the morning, 77.13.95. Write that number down. That is the high of the entire day. 10 minutes of trying, then they stopped. Remember that figure, because everything after 9:40 is the market living under a line it already failed. 6 hours and 20 minutes left on the clock, and they never used them. That is the part that matters going forward, because a high that prints in 10 minutes and never gets revisited is not noise. It is a ceiling with nobody underneath it even trying. Hold that high, 77.13.95. Monday's close is still 31 points above it. Now watch the rest of the session, because this is the part the headline will not show you. 10 o'clock, they get back to 77.12.33. A 1.5 short of their own high, still 33 under the floor they were supposed to reclaim. Then the tape just sits. All afternoon underneath a line they never touched. And at 3:55, the last 5-minute bar of the session, they print the low of the day, 76.88.63, the last bar. That is not a washout that got bought. That is sellers working into the close. 2 days in a row, the last 5 minutes printed the low. File that away. It is the whole day in one candle. Anybody who was waiting for a bounce into the close did not get one. Not Monday, not Tuesday. That is not a dip. That is a tape that is still working lower when the bell is about to ring. Here's the story that went out. S&P down 0.69%. A quiet red day. The Dow only down 0.2. Target beat earnings. And the other headline, forget the Mag 7, the Phase 2 AI trade is here. Every one of those sentences is true, and every one of them describes an average of a war. Because while the index printed a quiet minus 0.69, the names that built last week's floor were getting cut 4 to 7%. If you only read the minus 0.69, you walked into Wednesday thinking nothing happened. Most people scrolled past that candle. Here's what it cost them. They spent Tuesday believing the floor was still underneath the market, and they will spend Wednesday finding out it is not. And in a minute, I will show you the name that paid 7% to keep the average quiet. Let me slow this right down. Last Wednesday, I showed you the other photograph. The S&P gapped up 37 points, and sellers threw 2 hours at it and could not fill 10 points of air back to the prior close. That gap was a floor. Tuesday is that photograph flipped over. They gapped down 45 and buyers could not fill 31 points of it in 6.5 hours. Same shape, opposite team. A gap that does not fill is a verdict about who is in the room. Monday's close is no longer a floor. It is the ceiling of a room they are not in. Next time price comes back to 77.45, you already know what happened there. Most people will treat that line like support because it was a close. You now know it failed as a floor the first time the overnight got a vote. Now leave the S&P print alone for a minute. Look at the fear gauge. The VIX closed at 1584, up 4.3%. On Thursday, the record day, the VIX ticked up, and that was the warning nobody wanted. On Tuesday, it went up again, and this time, the tape agrees. The Dow almost hit it, down 0.2. And unlike the S&P, the Dow actually tagged Monday's close by 19 points at 1050, then gave it back and finished under. The Nasdaq never got close, down 1.7, 318 points short of Monday. So the honest picture is not the market was quiet. It is the average was quiet, the Nasdaq was not, and fear went up. When somebody tells you the market about Tuesday, they had to pick one. Pick the one that never tagged Monday. That is the one that decides the next test. Here's who paid. Micron. Thursday, it tagged 978 and closed up 4. Tuesday, it opened $55 through its own close, 957 against 1,011, ran as high as 978.67 in the second bar, and still never tagged Monday. Closed 940, down 7%. Volume was not even loud, below its own average. Meta closed down 4.5 on volume 1.5 times normal and printed its low in the same last 5 minutes the S&P did. Same last bar, same direction. AMD down 4.25. The chip basket, SMH, down 4. The quiet, minus 0.69, was an average of those cuts. That is the twist hiding inside the headline. The index looked calm because the pain was in the names that built the floor, and those names never even tagged their own Monday closes. So here is Tuesday in one sentence. They opened through Monday's close and never came back. The high of the day was in at 940. The low of the day was the last bar. The names that built the floor ate 4 to 7. Fear went up. So here are your 3 live levels in order. 77.45, Monday's close. Take that back and the gap fill starts. 77.13.95, Tuesday's high. That is the first ceiling they have to beat. And 76.88.63, the last bar low. Lose that, and this is not a one-day gap. It is 2 days of last bar lows stacked on an unfilled hole. Those 3 lines are live right now. They get tested again, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next session. You now know what everyone else will find out late. If you want the read before the open, the letter is free at trenchtom.com. Read the tape. That's Tuesday. That's the replay.